I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order for September 24th, 2025, and we'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up is public audience. I don't know if there's a list out there, if anyone's name is on it.
There was Susan and me, but I was only gonna speak about Pam if she was here tonight.
Okay, I'll take the list, thank you. And there's no public hearing tonight, so Susan Messino is not here. I don't know where Susan is. Amanda?
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Oh, you're
speak
only
about
gonna speak
Pam.
when she's here?
Yeah.
Even though she's not here,
Is she
I'm
tonight?
we're presenting,
Well,
she's
you
not gonna
weren't
be
signed
here,
up.
but we are
I'm going by the
presenting on the
list.
team.
Okay, alright.
If you don't mind.
No, it's fine, and I actually forgot that it was tonight, I was at CVS buying Skittles. And then I was like, oh
Where
my
are
gosh,
they?
that's why I'm dressed like
Important
a
things.
peasant. So I'm Amanda Blaze, I live at 50 Simsbury Manor Drive in Weetog. And Pam has been much more than a librarian. I'm not sure what her goals were when she started her studies for library sciences, but she was a very irreplaceable person at the library. And whoever tries to step into her shoes is going to, you can't replicate Pam. She was an extremely safe person. She saw me through so many different times. When she called to remind me of a program that my kid signed up for, she would really ask how I was and really listen, and I think that's what we need here in town is people who are really like authentic and compassionate and really know the residents by name. That makes like a really, really huge difference, and we had that with her, so. I'm so sad that she'll be retiring, but she deserves it.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Susan, you missed your first call, but we'll call you back up.
Circle back, thank you. Susan Messino, 41 Madison Lane. After the last meeting, I realized that I really longed for the days when I came here like maybe once or twice a year and talked about the Grange Fair or some other fun thing. So tonight, I'm gonna spend part of my public time with a little Back to the Future announcement. As Simsbury Grange president, I am proud to announce we are offering Beaver Pond Wildlife Part 4, Midsummer to Fall, as our film Friday on Friday, October 3rd. Social hour at 6 p.m., film at 7. This was the favorite event of all of the events that were at Real Artways during one of the employees that was at Real Artways. It's phenomenal. So I'll just read a little description. We will see great blue heron nestlings are growing quickly. Fledgling red-shouldered hawks take their first flights and practice flying around the pond. See how a flood and a bear affects the beavers. There's a new family of belted kingfishers honing their skills. We'll see how bees and hummingbirds uniquely interact with various flowers. North America's only carnivorous butterfly. Newly hatched painted and snapping turtles emerging from underground nests. How aquatic bladderwort plants capture food, beavers preparing for the coming winter, tiny slug eggs hatching, otters and mink fishing, weevils, snakes, leeches, various birds, and stunning aerial views of New England's signature autumn foliage, and more. So this is what is in our backyard, and someone said, we need compassionate people who know the town. I just wanna say, as part of Keep the Woods with the Ethel Walker Woods, we called every house in town. We phone banked every house in town to see what people cared about. And this is what people care about. And we've been doing a lot of surveys and things like that, but they're not valid surveys. They're just make up some questions and see what people think about it. It's not a valid survey of the community. There are so many people that don't come to these meetings, that don't interface with you at all, but they all pay taxes and they all have the ability to vote. And if you see what people vote about, they care about this kind of stuff. We have a compassionate community and we don't wanna lose that. And the reason why I and many other people in town are very concerned are about a number of glitches. Tonight, I know Lori last time, which I hadn't noticed, said that there were competing meetings. It turns out tonight, the only two meetings that they have the opportunity for public comment are this meeting and charter revision, and they're happening at the same time. I would think that maybe one could be at the Board of Ed and one could be here, but now one is over in the library. So creating an absolute barrier to participating in both and creating a big problem for SCTV, who we know is struggling because they lost their station manager. So we should try not to have more glitches. The other glitches that have been happening are calling something over and over again in public documents saying that it's a public hearing when it's not actually a public hearing. So when someone goes back and looks at the historical record, they'll think there was a public hearing and there wasn't. So we should use the right words. And so back to the right words, I want to get back to the open space issue because I'm really concerned that people still don't seem to understand what open space is. And the idea that Curtis Park is not open space is not based on any data. Just because it's a park doesn't mean it's not open space. Open space could be a park. It could be a forest, it could be a wetland, it could be a lot of different things. And it's basically our public land, one designation out of 22 types of land use in the town. So I made a document explaining what open space is. I have a copy for each of you, and if you think there's anything wrong on this document, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public audience? Joan, I know.
Bill Cove, 26 Wickham Drive. The Constitution states Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Simsbury's government has instituted regulations and policies that curtail free speech and censor free expression. Simsbury Public Library's mission statement states, "The Simsbury Public Library educates and enriches the community by providing free and equal access to information, resources, and experiences." Recently, there was a story written by Stephen Glynn pertaining to the censorship of the artwork of Sarah Snyderman approved by the library. The article quotes, "Simsbury Public Library edits art installation critical of Donald Trump after town leader complains. Artwork critical of former President Donald Trump that was taken down by the public library after first select woman Wendy Maxtusis complained has been rehung without controversial text. The library board of directors determined after it was removed that the installation violated the library's policy that artwork must be suitable for family viewing and not hostile to the work environment. The installation titled 'You're Fired, I Quit' casts a critical eye on Trump's term in office with portraits of him and members of his cabinet. The portraits, crafted from non-recyclable trash and repurposed material, were accompanied by text related to the subject of the portrait and their work in Trump's cabinet. Massachusetts, a Democrat, said Thursday she was in the library during the microburst storm over the weekend when the building was open as a cooling center and noticed the artwork. And it's quoted, "I got up to read the blurbs under each one, and most were derogatory, and the artist's view of each member of that administration." Mactusis said, "I honestly can't imagine any municipality displaying this with the wording of the artist." Mactusis added that she felt the installation was inappropriate in general because of its political nature during a presidential election year, and she did not believe a public library was the place for politically skewed art at any time. Maselli, library director, said she understands that some will view what the library did as censorship. The library stands for First Amendment rights. This is Maselli. But we have to balance that without policies. This appears to be a conflict with the library's mission statement. Another instance of censorship is the town's rules and procedures, section A 162, decorum and standards of conduct. All meeting participants should address the board, maintain a civil tone, and should not impinge the motive, character, or integrity of any individual. The board reserves the right to curtail any speaker addressing the board in a manner that is not consistent with this section. Dan Barrett, legal director for the Connecticut ACLU, said that if it is only a suggestion that it is okay, but added that it was not his interpretation. "This does not read as a mere suggestion," he said in an email, noting the language of the new rules. "The board reserves the right to curtail any speaker addressing the board in a manner that is not consistent with this section. The language reads to me as if the board can, at its choosing, enforce the decorum standards, Barrett said. Simsbury First Selectman, Wendy Massachusetts, defended the board's intent to protect appointed employees from harassment and possible defamatory remarks. First Selectman Wendy Massachusetts is a candidate for First Selectman. Her record exemplifies the constant disdain for free speech, and her actions with the art exhibit has shown her to be an active participant of censorship. These are not the qualities of a candidate for First Selectman, and her actions should not qualify her for another term as Simsbury's First Selectman. Once again, the library censored Sarah Schneiderman's exhibit, More Garbage Than Fish, and refused to display the art exhibit in October. An alternative was given to Sarah Schneiderman in an email to display her artwork at a church, stating the church was not at all concerned about the issue of global warming to be too controversial. After the censorship of the art exhibit at the library, other
20
artists
seconds,
boycotted
Joan.
the Simsbury Public Library. Town Manager Mark Nelson should review the policy of the library for art displays and mission statements that appear to be inconsistent with the censorship displayed by the library and report his findings to the Board of Selectmen in public session. Abraham Lincoln stated, quote, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people." The residents of Simsbury should expect all our elected and appointed
Thank you.
leaders to embrace free speech and reject censorship in his speech and actions. All my comments will be posted on Simsbury Patch and Twitter at Joan Co. That was not, a little music at the end.
It's Max Studis, okay, for the last
I have a
6
hard job.
years, I know.
I'll try my best.
Thank you, I will too. Is there anyone else here for public audience? Sure, come on up. Your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Elvira Said. I live at 7 Park Road. I came here to share my thoughts on suicide awareness. I came to the United States over 20 years ago with a dream that my future children would have the best life possible. 15 years ago, I moved to Simsbury, so my 4-year-old daughter back then and my newborn son could attend what I believed were some of the best schools in America. And I did my part. I paid my taxes, very high Simsbury taxes. I worked hard, sometimes 2 jobs. I thought teachers and schools would do their part in return. Care for my children, educate them, protect them. And yes, on the surface, schools here look amazing. Beautiful buildings, colorful classrooms, top-notch amenities, fun field trips, social workers, psychologists. Simsbury even proudly states, mental health matters. They hold meetings, vote on new policies, and create safe spaces. But here's the reality. These safe spaces are not for families. Schools make sure children know the school is safer than their own home. Kids are told they can talk behind their parents' backs, report on them, and that if mom and dad disagrees with their identity, then mom and dad are the problem. Schools can even step in, file complaints, and treat loving parents as unsafe. Isn't that great? The system teaches kids how to distrust their families and then pats itself on the back for protecting them. But once they've driven that wedge between child and parent, they disappear. Nobody takes responsibility when that child is left isolated, depressed, and broken. That's exactly what happened to my daughter, Eileen, or Raven, how she liked to call herself. Teachers, school counselor, and friends at Simsbury High School affirmed a false male identity, encouraged her to see me as the enemy, told her to keep secrets. I had no idea what was happening behind school doors because I was busy working to pay the taxes so that the same teachers and school counselor, as well as the administration which was working on those policies, would get paid. Same thing happened in college. I was shut out. I wasn't safe because I wouldn't lie to my daughter and affirm something that wasn't true. That's what she was taught, to see her own mother as a danger. In college, my daughter received everything she was asking for: affirmation, money, gender-inclusive housing, hormones, and surgery for double mastectomy paid by taxpayers scheduled last December. She didn't make it to the surgery. On October 14th, 2024, my daughter was found dead after overdosing on Benadryl. She was just 18 years old. Her body lay in her dorm room for 4 days before anyone noticed. 4 days while the campus was busy celebrating National Coming Out Day. And I know, Simsbury High School was busy celebrating it too. My daughter was on testosterone, a drug that worsens depression, worsens anxiety, and increases suicidal thoughts. She was already struggling with all of those, but instead of addressing the root of her pain, society pushed her into that drug. Society cut her off from her family. And when she was most vulnerable, nobody checked on her. Everyone was too busy waving flags and throwing parties. Tell me, what good are suicidal awareness and Pride Month celebration, coming out days, and endless school policies, psychologists, social workers, books with explicit sexual language and suicidal ideation, which are, by the way, required by Simsbury High School, if our kids are still dying? In President Biden's 2025
Excuse me, your
budget,
time is up, so if you could wrap it up, please.
according to UNICEF in the United States, 14 teens per 100,000 take their lives every year. In Azerbaijan, where I'm coming from, the number is 4. In Azerbaijan, where is no gender clubs, no school boardings, no policies, no psychologists, the number for some reason is 3 times lower. So what's going on in here? America's way of preventing suicide didn't save my daughter. It helped destroy her. The very policies, including those on the side of Simsbury Board of Education that claim to protect her, only push her further away from me and deeper into pain. I lost my child because of them. That's a wound no parent should ever have to carry. But if nothing changes, tomorrow it could be your child. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here for public audience, Lori?
Lori Boyko from 15 Oakhurst Road. I wasn't gonna speak tonight. I cannot come here every 2 weeks and watch as people on this board are more concerned about whether someone has gone over 5 minutes than listening to the people in this town. This is not a public audience with 45 people where you're gonna be here for 2 hours. This rigidity of this 3 minutes or 5 minutes is absurd. And if we're worried about disrespect and residents saying something disrespectful to somebody else, I can't think of anything more disrespectful than watching the clock more than listening to the person that's speaking at this podium, who has concerns for the things that matter in their lives, their families, their children, their ability to pay their bills. And we are worried about whether somebody went 30 seconds over 5 minutes. I can't listen to it anymore.
Thank you.
What they care is about being paid. That's what it is.
Anybody else here for public audience? No? Okay. So we'll start with some items to move to the consent agenda, since there's only 3 items on here. I'm going to ask for a motion to move item A, item B in selectmen action, and item C in appointments and resignations.
I'll make the motion, but I'd like to keep the appointments and resignations on, just for minor comment.
Okay, sure.
I'll make the motion to move items in selectmen action, items A and B into the consent
Okay, is there
agenda.
a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda too. I'd like to add an item that would have been item D for discussion about the Housing Policy Advisory Committee.
okay, what's the content?
We can discuss it, I mean, during the discussion, but the idea would be that we got the recommendations from there, and there was a discussion at the DEI council meeting regarding the recommendations, and so I'll discuss some of that, I guess, in my update, but it's worthy for discussion of the board. It's a short agenda, I think it can be added.
Is it a motion or is it just a discussion?
So we can add the discussion, there might be action at the end of it, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Somebody wanna?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're also discussing it kind of in item 3. Okay, So the first selectmen's reports, just a couple things I wanna share. We had the Simsbury Meadows Performing Arts groundbreaking last week, which was pretty exciting because we've been working on that for a long time. We had nice gold shovels and hard hats, thank you, Tom. The week before was the Drake Hill Flower Bridge, Burgers on the Bridge. It was great weather. They did a really nice time. There's a lot of old friends there. So it was just a really lovely night. I do wanna, I did ask Mark to speak tonight on the proposed solar at 140 Nodbrook. Up until this point, we met privately with some small groups on the board to get the scoop from them and ask them for some things that we would like to see. Mark and George took the lead as the town professionals, compiled a list and sent them a letter with all the things that they felt needed to be called out, and sent that forward. We're hoping to see what kind of changes they bring to that, but I've asked Mark to share that letter and to talk about that tonight. And then I know that Mark is gonna have Tom talk about the USA waste leak that we've been talking about. A couple other things I wanna give Tom and his team at CCSC kudos for the new bridge at Lake Bazile that was put into place. So the next time we go on the bike ride, it will look a lot sturdier than it has in the past. And Terriffill School is celebrating its 100th anniversary this weekend. I have 2 alumni. I know Heather does too. So it's kind of an exciting thing, although my alumni do not live here anymore, so they will not be going. And then the Terriffill 200th celebration on the 27th, in the green. There's a big kind of party going on there. And that's all I have, so I'm gonna turn that over to Mark for his town manager's report.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start, just as you see on the agenda, it was put on as a presentation recognizing Pamela Sikora for her 40 years of service. And we had one of our speakers, actually Commission Clerk Amanda Blaze, speak about Pam's contribution. And she did a very eloquent job of that. But I just want to take a minute, and I wish that Pamela could have been with us tonight. She couldn't be. But 40 years of service to the town is just remarkable. And this isn't the first individual that we've recognized for that many years of service. We've started a little tradition here of giving him the vase for anything over 30, and this is I think the second one we've had the privilege of awarding. As Amanda said, Pamela is one of the shining stars over there at the library, and everybody, almost every single person that has frequented the library for the last years has had occasion to speak with her, engage with her, and actually know her. And I just want to thank her personally for the 40 years of service. And I want to remind this board because we've had, whether it's in the framework of budget discussions or correspondence from the public, comments about turnover, for example, at the library. And I just don't see it. I see, a staff over there, and Pamela is the epitome of that works hard every day, dedicates their lives, in many cases their entire career to the Simsbury Public Library. And for those that I didn't get the privilege of knowing Pamela, but I'm really proud to be working with an organization that has so many wonderful employees. She's one of them, and we wish her all the best in her retirement. I'm gonna, as the chair indicated, I'm gonna ask Tom Roy, our DPW director and town engineer, to talk for a minute and update the board on the USA hauling hydraulic fluid leak. But before I do that, let me just go through a couple of really important things that the chair didn't mention. I'll try to go through these quickly. Obviously, we were all at the Performing Arts Center, and I won't go through that again, but we're all so proud to have been a part of that. We did do the clock tower rededication ceremony. I know on behalf of everybody here and all of the staff, we thank our friends at the Simsbury Volunteer Fire Department for that. And then one thing in particular that staff wanted me to mention, and our thanks go to everybody who helped raise money, but our Engineering and Administrative Secretary Joan Sikorsky, along with a bunch of other town staff in their private lives and capacity, participated in the Creative Living Community of Connecticut, CLCC. They had their 9th annual golf tournament. They raised a bunch of money. All funds raised go to assisting adults with developmental disabilities. And we've got a link on our town manager report for some great photos and ways to contribute if you wanna do that. With that, let me, if I could, Chair, just ask Tom to say a few words on the hauling, and then I'd like to reserve a minute for the solar farm.
Alright, we're getting closer to the end. The spill occurred back on August 29th. Late last week, we got the report from ESI, who is the company hired by USA Hauling, who had their licensed environmental professional go out and take soil samples and water samples. Once we had that report in hand, we were able to share it with Atlas Environmental, who's working solely for the town of Simsbury. Just a few hours ago, they gave us their report, so I just had a little bit of time to read through it. They've essentially said, you know, the initial cleanup was in compliance with best industry practices. DEEP has signed off on the cleanup. They did that day. I've been in contact with Farmington Valley Health District with their folks that deal with the wells. They are also satisfied at this point with the cleanup. The initial recommendations from the report we got from Atlas Environmental is that they are recommending that we take an additional 6 to 8 soil samples. ESI had 2 soil samples taken, one as a control sample away from the site, the other in an area where they believed the oil may have made contact with the soil. Both were over some of the threshold, which may have been associated with the fact we were coming out of a long period without significant rain and all of the roads get some level of oil dripping on them and that type of things. But the one within the project area was an order of magnitude higher on all of the chemicals that were over the limits. So we wanna make sure that that area is tested to understand the range. We're gonna test a couple other areas along the side of the road where there wasn't curving to see if there's anything impacted. It looks like we will probably request USA do some level of soil remediation right in that area, just shoveling out the first couple feet that may have been impacted and above that threshold limit. We'll be making that request of USA tomorrow, and I'll be sharing this information with the neighborhood tomorrow.
And we've gotten emails that not everybody in the neighborhood may be getting all the information, so is there something we can post like on the homepage or something?
At this point, everything's public record, we could post the entire report.
Okay.
And actually the Atlas report includes the ESI report, which includes the DEP report, so it's kind of like nesting dolls.
So we could just point people to something, which would be great. I mean, I know you're
Exactly
doing
right.
as much as you can to keep the word out there, but that would be really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. And Chair, just to finish up, I appreciate your introductory remarks on the solar farm. So I think there's a pretty wide understanding amongst the board, and certainly staff has been working on this. The location is 149 Road, as you know. But just to put this in perspective for those that are not aware, our land use boards will have very little to say about this. The application, when it's filed by the company's name, Lodestar, will be reviewed and acted on by the Connecticut Siting Council under state usurpation of local zoning control for these types of solar and telecommunications sites. So, staff met with the developer twice. Some members of this board and some other electeds, I think our state delegation was on a Zoom call with them just to listen, really, as a fact-finding effort initially. And those meetings were, I think, helpful in terms of getting the players in the room together and to isolate the problems that our town staff, particularly our planning director, George McGregor, and his team would have and do have with this. The end result so far has been a letter to Lodestar dated September 10th, which we, after discussion with the chair, are gonna post online on the town's website tomorrow morning and make public. And I know I've shared it previously with the board. But it does indicate that a number of issues that the town staff, we are particularly concerned with, obviously, as I think many in the public would be. Everything from the impact on the view shed to the impact on the adjacent and proximate wetlands and all of those things I won't get into, but we are gonna share this letter. So where are we today, Chair, is that we are waiting a response from them. They did acknowledge receipt of the letter. They sent George on our team an email and said, thank you very much for the comments and we're gonna review them with our team and we're gonna get back to you. Presumably that will occur sometime next week. That would be my expectation. I can't predict what that response will be other than to say that some of the things that we've asked for are pretty de minimis and I would hopefully they would act on it. One thing we did let Lodestar know, which I think actually two things are really important that this board fully understand. And one is that we wanted to be upfront with them that it's staff's intent, our intent to let the siting council know that our view is they should take a very skeptical view of the application because of its location. And so we did not want our letter in which we indicate a number of problems to be interpreted as, if you fix these problems, we're good with it. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that the siting council needs to take a very long, deep dive look into this for all the reasons we've cited in the letter. But notwithstanding that, we're also pointing these things out, right? So it was I think well written in terms of conveying that to them. The second thing that I know the board is aware of, but I want to put out there is that the property owner of this location is significantly delinquent on real estate taxes, and that this board recently acted to pass a local law that would prevent the issuance of a building permit in the event of back taxes, right? I also want to share with this board, as you know, but for the benefit of the public, that about a month or so ago, we came to the board on the advice and recommendation of the town's tax collector and finance director. And we asked this board for permission to begin the process of what's called a tax sale, where delinquent properties that have significantly delinquent back taxes are essentially auctioned through the process of a tax sale. That process is beginning based on the authorization from this board. We felt it was necessary in our communication with Lodestar to let them know. Presumably they did their own due diligence with respect to the property. But notwithstanding that, we wanted to convey on behalf of the town a fully transparent letter that raised some of the most serious concerns, and the taxes certainly could not go unmentioned, given the fact that the number is approaching $300,000, Chair. So I'm happy to answer a couple of questions on this. I would just say that until an application is actually filed, I think we're at a good spot at the moment, and I'll throw it back to you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. I was just gonna make one comment that the content of the letter really covered a lot of ground, a lot of what Mark said. One of the things that came up is that we're hoping, if they continue on this path, would be to have a public hearing from the siting council, which would be here, which would allow the public to present their views. There was one here when the solar over there was a public hearing. Tobacco Valley.
Tobacco Farm.
Right, and they said that there's certain limitations of how much of it is agricultural, which we didn't qualify for, because if the DAG makes that decision based on the amount of farmland, but to me, a lot of what was in that letter seemed to be persuasive that we would want the public hearing to happen here, which is a good thing if it continues. So I just wanted to keep that, and we would make you aware of when that is, obviously. But that's all. I don't know if anybody had any other comments.
I have just two, but one you answered because I wanted to make clear that the application hasn't been filed, but two other questions. Was this information with George and everything shared with the land use boards at this time? Because I wanna make sure that they, even though they may not have a lot of say in this, I think it would be important for them to be aware
Yes, it
of
was.
this.
So the breakdown on that was George handled notifying the land use boards and I notified this board. But between us, I think we've covered all of the stakeholders and sometimes we miss things too, as you know, so we're gonna make the letter public tomorrow and put it on our website and I think, I've been through a few of these before. I think, transparency is very important for the public. I know this board feels the same way, so I think we count on us to just post this for the benefit of the public as soon as we get it.
Then the other question I have is, does the siting council, are they aware or can they be aware, or how do we notify the state of their tax situation, that they are arrears in tax and we may be going through
It's
like it
just-
should be part of the communication that they should maybe not even consider until these taxes are.
It's a great question. We thought about whether or not we wanted to copy the citing council on the letter itself, and we decided not to do that primarily because they haven't filed. And so they haven't triggered the state review yet. We don't wanna jump the gun. And in fact, who are we to say they ever will file?
Right.
For all we know, they're looking at other potential locations and they may, my lips to everybody's ears, but they may feel that having read this and heard other public feedback, that this isn't the best location and maybe they need to look in a neighboring community.
Thank you.
Thank
Those are
you.
my questions, thanks.
Okay, so now we'll move into, liaison reports. Kevin.
So I've said it before, I'll say it again, this Saturday is a reading of the Declaration of Independence as well as an introduction to the 4 Connecticut signers of the Declaration of Independence, including Sam Huntington, Roger Sherman, William Williams, who we've been calling Billy Bills, and yours truly, Oliver Wolcott Senior. So come to Eno Hall, not the Historical Society, Eno Hall at 3 p.m. on Saturday to hear a little bit about their stories. So you'll hear about these common folks who did uncommon things on behalf of the nation and hear the words of the Declaration spoken, which I having heard it through the rehearsal and a couple of times in school, it's a pretty inspiring document to think that during a time of such challenge that they were able to so clearly you articulate the reasons why independence was necessary for the nation. So it's been a privilege. Thank you for the appointment to that group, to the first selectman. It's been a privilege to serve, and many thanks to both the members of the 250th Celebration Committee, the Simsbury Historical Society, the Abigail Phelps chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution here in town, and for lending a couple of actors better than me, the Simsbury Theater Guild, who you'll get to hear from. Thankfully, I'm not following them during my speaking portion. I'll also mention the DEI Council, met last week. I had a couple of things for our consideration, including the opportunity to assist us and the town when making proclamations for various groups and things. I think that's an appropriate use for this advisory group that we have access to, for consideration, and I thought that was worthy. And then I asked for a discussion this evening on the SHPAC report too, so I look forward to that discussion a little bit later. That's all for me.
Diane?
For Culture Parks and Rec, they have the Friends of the Simsbury Farms Golf Tournament. This is this Friday at 9 a.m. Many of us will be there much earlier for setup, but it's sold out, so this is great. But weather looks good and it should be a good time. There's also some seasonal positions that are opening and they're hiring for currently, so please visit their website. There's ice rink attendance and things like that. So there are some seasonal positions that they are hiring for currently. See their website. SIMPAC, we have already mentioned 3 times now, the groundbreaking, which took place, it was fantastic. But they are working on their 2026 season and calendar of events, and they have some really exciting things that are maybe coming together, so stay tuned for that. They're looking for a much fuller season outside of the Hartford Symphony Orchestra and really taking advantage of the new build out. Aging and disability. We had a extremely successful Aging in Place Expo at the library on September 12th. In part thanks to this board for approving the application for the AARP grant, which microgrant, which we received, which helped us to secure the Smart Home on Wheels from Oak Hill, which was literally this mini home that was in the parking lot on the upper lot, filled with technology in ways that you can use technology to safely age in place and retrofit your home, and they gave examples, but we had upwards more than 250 seniors and participants come through this Aging in Place Expo. We had a sellout of we don't wanna call them vendors because they weren't selling anything, but community partners who were there with services ranging from financial services to plumbing to AARP to our own Aging and Disability Commission. And the feedback was tremendous, and many seniors asked if we can continue doing these type of series. So it was extremely successful. We even had some younger community members coming through with the lens for their aging parents. So kudos to the Aging and Disability Commission. The fashion show and senior Super Thursday event again is October 9th. And we're working on our sensory Halloween event, which will be for people with disabilities, free event at the library on October 29th. And that's all for me.
Thank you.
The only thing I have is finally some economic development progress. We've organized with Simsbury Main Street Partnership a gift card so that they're signing up the merchants during October. November 1st, you'll be able to purchase a gift card that will be available to whatever merchants in Simsbury sign up. But it'll make an excellent gift for the holiday season where you don't just give a gift card to one place, you give a gift card to the Simsbury economy. So I look forward to that.
I'm just gonna take a spot here. I sat in for EDCC, was unable to, they've been inviting board and commission chairs, not ours, but other board and commission chairs, to kind of give their vision for economic development. So the last meeting that I was there, Lisa Hebner from the Board of Finance came, and Aaron Levitt-Smith came from Planning and Development. A lot of what you did obviously referred to the POCD, what the POD says, PODCD says, for the vision of the town. And then they did do an update on that data project that they're doing, but I had to leave, so I don't know where it went. I did wanna just say a couple of things, for Capital Region Council of Government, I don't normally do this, but CROG, as a member of the CROG Policy Board, they are trying to come up with, or they have come up with, a regional housing policy to kind of offset the HB 5004 to take away, to bring it down to our level so that we have more input on it. And so at some point I'll be bringing that to the board to review, and I think Glastonbury is actually signing on to that. I'm not there yet, but I just want you to know that I'll get that out to you guys. And then the other thing I wanna say is every year we have a legislative committee where a few of us are on a legislative body to talk about what we wanna bring to the state for the next session and work with CCM. So I'm asking all of you if there's any state legislature that you think might be valuable to bring, cause I don't always have all these ideas. Let me know and I'll be happy to bring them to the table. So that's it. I'll turn it over to Heather.
Okay, great, thank you. So our public safety had our quarterly meeting last week. And so I have a few things there. The police have launched an interactive map on their website. So it will allow residents to search up to 100 categories, all kinds of things from crime trends to bear calls. So that's a new resource for residents. The department was also warning against residents receiving fraudulent texts from DMV requesting tolls. They also discussed where, this one's kind of scary, where you can get an AI emergency call that sounds like it's from a loved one requesting money. So there is a website, so that's ic.3, sorry I forgot my .gov. ic.3.gov, which does offer some training on what to look for in kind of targeting and fraudulent activity. So the Farmington Valley Health Department also, they'll be having flu clinics, one at the senior center on October 20th from 2 to 5, and one at the public library on the 24th of October from 10 to 12. The Eno parking area will be shut down for 2 weeks, starting the week of 10/13. Social Services has said that they have a reduction in donations for the food pantry, so any residents who are looking to donate there, that would be great. They also have started their energy assistance program for the winter as well. And the ambulance had their monthly meeting. They had 257 911 calls, 236 dispatches, 155 transports, 21 calls for mutual aid in, 14 mutual aid out, and they have also created a proposed 5-year ambulance replacement plan for their 3 ambulances. And then our quarterly public safety newsletter will be going out next week. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Oh, but I would like to say the planning, at the planning meeting, George did update the group on the solar array, so he did report on that
Okay,
to them.
great.
I believe the parking lot project that it will be closed as of 10/10.
Yeah, I know, he just said he said the week following the fashion show, so.
So it's
Make sure people can get there.
it's scheduled to close 10/10.
Okay,
It's just
gotta
so
have
people, when if they show up on 10/10, it's closed.
that. Okay, thanks.
Perfect.
So
Curtis?
None of my boards met in the last 2 weeks, so
Okay,
next month I'll have something for you.
alright, I'm gonna ask you then, October 15th.
Tom, did you have this posted here, this is the flu clinic thing that we had, right?
Well,
Yeah.
there's I think one potential date correction to make and
Okay.
Okay, so selectmen action, we have 2 items. The first, well, we may have 3 items, but for now, we have 2 items and we're gonna discuss correspondence from the Connecticut Housing regarding Eno Farm. So this is an item that Mark asked to bring to the board for discussion. I'm not sure if it requires a motion, so we put this on just to bring the information and to see what Mark is asking. He's referring to an item in the SHPAC under the land use proposed lands available to the town. And I am actually going to turn this over to Mark and then open it up for everybody to be part of the discussion.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think a formal motion is necessary, but in something of this import, I wanted to make sure that I brief the entire board and also put it out there for the public's awareness as well. So in your packets, you've got the brief cover memo that gives you some of the background here, but I just draw your attention to the letter that's in your packet dated September 18th. From the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. I'm just gonna read it it's a very short letter, so bear with me. Dear Mr. Nelson, as we discussed, CHFA through its subsidiary, Small Properties Inc., is the owner of Eno Farms Apartments in Simsbury. And the town of Simsbury has a ground lease on the property. CHFA took title to the property as the result of a foreclosure action back in 2009. At this time, CHFA is interested in selling, and we would like to discuss the possibility of the town of Simsbury making an offer on the property. CHFA would require any new owner to keep the current affordability ratings, which is at or below 80% of AMI, of area median income, Please let me know at your earliest convenience if the town of Simsbury has any interest in pursuing these discussions, et cetera, et cetera. Look forward to your correspondence. It's signed by Wendy Morez, who's the senior program officer over at CHFA. When we've had a couple of conversations where CHFA has indicated that they'd like to have open formal discussions about the town to gauge the town's interest in acquiring this. And then just to back up for just a second, when they say we have a ground lease, put a different way, we own the ground, we own the land, CHFA owns the units that are there, 50 or so units that are affordable. There's a long history involving this, and I had the occasion recently to sit down with Selectman Stephen Antonio and go through with him some of this, and we have asked staff to scan relevant documents relating to Eno Farms. Some of these go back to the actual ground lease, which was inked back in 1991. We're in the process of digitalizing these. There's significant numbers of files, and boxes of this, so that we'll be able to provide this board very quickly with specific information that we know you're gonna ask down the road. So that is a work in progress. So far, we've got, for anybody who's interested, we can get you copies of the ground lease, copies of the 2 or 3 amendments to the ground lease that occurred thereafter, some historical information, and some of the legal opinion letters that were issued by attorneys on the town side over the last 20 years that relate to both the deed and as well as to the foreclosure action in 2009. And not to overcomplicate things, but the foreclosure action also had the effect of extinguishing the tax credits that the developer used to develop the property. It was those tax credits that were one of the key mechanisms to assure the affordability of these units for what was then the foreseeable future. Because the tax credits have expired, the assurance that this remains affordable now rests solely with the original deed and our ground lease with CHFA as the successor in interest to CIL, which is the former developer now defunct. So don't wanna overload with too much information, but what we're asking for tonight is first an opportunity for board members to ask any questions, but also for your general nod that I, acting as your town manager, can actually sit down and have negotiations and serious conversations with CHFA. Those conversations would involve, trying to get really more information, call it the preliminary steps of any due diligence that would be necessary to do here. I think that, and this is just my opinion, it has not been, I haven't done the math on it, but I believe that CHFA has been most likely made whole because of the passage of time since their foreclosure. I therefore don't believe that the acquisition would be a particularly expensive challenge for the town if the town was interested in purchasing. The problem and the risk, from a fiscal perspective, and again, very preliminary, is what are the capital needs there? And so if the board is okay with me proceeding to have these conversations, there'd be a couple of tracks. First of all, we need to know what CHFA's timeline is. And gauge their level of seriousness about the proposal, but more importantly, their acquiescence and partnership in conducting a capital needs assessment of the property. And again, a capital needs assessment would tell us, right down to every roof shingle and every refrigerator, every microwave, how long, what is the remaining useful life on these things, and through that we could measure what the town's potential risk on the capital side would be in terms of the acquisition. Lastly, is why would we think of doing this? There's 2 main reasons why we would think of doing it. One is to assure the affordability continues, because there are questions about the deed that were not litigated but subject to Attorney General review, and I'm sharing in that packet that you'll see some legal opinions about this. The reason I show them is because this issue as to whether the deed and the restrictions as to affordability have survived the passage of time is hotly contested. The town's attorney doesn't agree with the Attorney General's, the then Attorney General's view on this. That's not really relevant to whether or not we proceed to have the discussions, but what we do want the board to know is that the tax credits that assured the affordability continues are extinguished. And so it's either the deed or it's the ground lease, or if we acquire it, it's the agreement to maintain that affordability, which I would presume that this board would be interested in doing. I'll just close with this. Recently, this board authorized the town to put in an application with the state of Connecticut for essentially a moratorium on 830G applications. That request, which staff, and I want to give George credit for this, it was an extremely well put together packet for the state of Connecticut, rather complicated. it was denied, and I reported that denial to the board some months later. We informally appealed, we didn't wanna rock the boat, but we did inquire as to the specifics of the denial. And what I can share with the board again is that we were extremely close in terms of the calculation of what are referred to as HUE points. And really only a handful of additional affordable units in town might have thrown us over the threshold and we would have potentially been approved for the 830G application. Why is all of this important? Because if you fix that problem, and remember, they're currently affordable units, but we're not getting credit for them, right? And CHFA is not interested in filing a new deed, clearing title and doing anything. They wanna divest themselves of this, right? And I'm just, again, staying out of the policy arena, but if it were this board's intent to pursue the moratorium, the fastest and easiest way I could see forward to doing it is to solve the problem, fix the deed, put the property back together again, right? So we own the land, they own the properties, we could recombine that, we could file our own deed, which would have our own deed restriction on it, and we would, I can't speak for the state of Connecticut, but my recommendation is that we look seriously at doing that. If for no other reason, then it would give us time to, I think, spend a little bit more time on the 830G risks and rewards, which many of which are talked about in the SHPAC report that I know Selectman Beal is gonna talk about shortly. So I know we're short on time, but my recommendation is that the board please authorize me to at least go down this rabbit hole. It is very complicated. I have involved the town attorney. I'll keep this board closely engaged, and in fact, my plan would be to have a few of us, involved in this closely. Interestingly, we were going through a lot of the boxes, and back in the 2000s, the town had a Eno Farms committee that had been formed, I believe, by former First Select woman Mary Glassman. We've got file folders here. But this may be the sort of thing where we need the help of people on this board, our planner and our town attorney. It's a very complex set of circumstances, but I think we really do owe it to our team and residents and taxpayers to take a look at it. If for no other reason than I think you wanna protect the affordability. And Chair, sorry for the lengthy thing, but hopefully the board would support us having these conversations.
Are we permitted to submit questions to be asked?
Yeah, by all means, and in fact, I as the town's lead negotiator, I've had in 2 years been with you all on a number of negotiations, whether it's MOUs or collective bargaining agreements or property purchases. We've done a lot in the last couple of years. I will tell you, this one is complicated. And I spent some time with Stephen on it, and I've spent hours with Bob DiCrescenzo on it, and even I will say our colleague in the audience here, Miss Joan Coe, who is very familiar with all of this, and Joan and I have had a number of really good conversations. I want to give Joan a bit of a shout out for educating me on some of the history here. There was a lot of litigation involving the property and ownership rights and things like that, and I don't have to bore you with that, but Heather, yes, we would love to have this board engaged in the discussions.
Does the town have right of first refusal on this? Is that why?
Great question. We do and we don't. I wish
It's always with you, Mark. It's like
I wish the ground lease was a little clearer on this.
Okay.
I think the main thing is that from CHFA's perspective, they need our acquiescence to sell it. And so it's not described as a right of first refusal, but effectively it's a right of first refusal. So they've asked us, do we have any interest? If we say no and we don't wanna go down that path, their next letter to me will be under whatever section where they're notifying us that they wanna go out to bid. And I think that brings us to my closing argument, which is, better we control our destiny in this town, I think, than have CHFA go out to bid and have an out-of-town developer come in and who knows what would happen.
Can I ask a question? Somewhere in here, I thought I pulled the stuff from the SHPAC, the addendum F, I guess, is that what it was?
I haven't looked at that in a while. What is it?
Well, there's a whole history on Eno Farms.
Oh, yeah.
And the AMIs and all the percentages for low income, and it talked about the tax credits. But somewhere it said that the donation of this land to the town requires this to be used for affordable housing. And where is that documented?
Yeah, so the deed references low and moderate, the answer is the deed. The question is whether those provisions of the deed have survived some rather complex things that have happened since then. For example, the town apparently used it as a landfill. There's a long history here in box 39 that I haven't read yet. But this is the issue, Wendy, where the deputy attorney general and the town attorney and our town attorney got another attorney's legal opinion on this, a third attorney weighed in. And so we have digitized those for the benefit of the board, when I draw your attention to those. My own view, having read them all, they are complex legal opinions. When you see a legal opinion that's 9 pages, you got a lot of work ahead of you. But as a non-lawyer, I would tend to side with our town attorney on this. I think the AG got it wrong. But the point is that if we want to have any control of the property's future, then I think we should at least explore the possibility of acquiring the buildings and putting it all back together.
Is it, oh.
Okay, no, go ahead, Curtis.
Oh, I was just saying, is the thought, maybe 2 questions. One is the thought that we would turn this into kind of a managed property that the town is managing? And then 2, have we looked at maybe possibly using the housing authority as a possible?
Yeah, it's
Inside the
mentioned,
town?
it's a great question, Curtis. It's mentioned briefly in the memo. I allude to the housing authority. So, and it's just my view, others could disagree with me. I don't think it's our or any local government's primary purpose to manage properties, affordable or not. And so in this case, because if you wanna preserve the affordability, the best entity in town to manage it would be the housing authority. This was explored some years ago. There was a movement afoot to back in 2012 or 13. A couple of different things have come up over the years. One was that the town would purchase it and move it to the housing authority. Another was that an independent, external developer or property manager rather would purchase it and run it. I think to your point, the town attorney recommends that it be, if we were to acquire it, that it be transferred to the housing authority. I think that would be my recommendation, but it's too early to say. And part of the reason I say that, Curtis, is because I'm not quite clear, and I've had a couple conversations with the first selectman about this, in terms of the housing authority and their scope and capacity and their funding mechanisms and their fiscal condition, right? So
And that would be my concern, because as liaison to the housing authority, I know that they're separate from the town, so they're state. And and I don't know that they're would be 100% open to
it
expanding
might not be, right?
to
So let me just say that while the housing authority did not have a representative on SHPAC, the Cheryl Cook, who serves both as a co-chair of DEI, now chair of DEI, and chair of the Housing Authority's board, was an active and participating member. One of the reasons that this board did not appoint directly a housing authority person was based on my recommendation that the SHPAC report might ultimately come up with recommendations that would potentially affect the housing authority. That was why we did that, in fact, foreseeing this issue. But to your question, I think specifically, the housing authority is different today than it was back in 2012 or 2013. And so the fact that they might not have wanted to entertain it then shouldn't preclude us having those conversations today. The other thing is that, the housing authority's ability to manage the property is tied to their overall fiscal condition, and that's something I think that we, even though they're independent, Curtis, I think that there are Simsbury's Housing Authority and we're certainly partners, and we share similar missions with respect to housing. So I do have a meeting set up and invited Ms. Cook as their board chair to come and meet with me. I think that may be happening next week. and we'll keep this board informed, but you know.
Just a couple things, like I don't have a problem to get some answers to some of these questions, but to just say go off and figure out how much money this is gonna cost us and that concerns me, because if we spend 6 months going down that rabbit hole to get the costs and analysis and there's no appetite here. My thinking is, you know, it'd be great to find out, I know Heather said she had a question, what is the timeline with CHFA, like what are we really looking at? When do we really need to come up with an answer? I'd also like to understand, you know, get a little bit more from Bob on exactly what is the lease or the deed, which
It's a lease.
one of those, what is it
Both have
really,
impact,
you know,
but
more of a
lease.
finite definition of what that is and what our ownership or someone else's ownership would mean. And then the other piece on the translating to the housing authority, also in the SHPAC, there was a letter that's from 2005, but it has to do with when Tom Vincent was first selectman, and it does talk about turning over Eno to the housing authority, but it does say that the housing authority is a separate legal entity, and that's another question we talked about was, can we get a definition actually of what our role would be with the housing authority? Because we do help appoint the members, but I don't feel like we've really had anything come to us ever about anything that they're doing, and if there's any potential for them to being part of this, I think we need to know what we do. So I don't know where other people feel. I think some more fact finding or some details, I don't know, just that's kind of where I am.
If I could, just with respect to the 6 months, it probably wouldn't take that long. I think the main key is what I said earlier, Wendy, is we need a capital needs assessment. Without that, we're operating in the blind, right? So the idea is, let's have the conversations, let's order that capital needs assessment. I'm certainly gonna make the pitch that CHFA pay for that.
Okay.
And
For the assessment or for the capital?
For the needs assessment, right? And maybe for some of the capital later if we get that far. That's down the road. But in terms of getting that information, I think, CHFA would I can't speak for them, but I would hope that they would wanna partner with us in getting us the information that we need to make the decision that is in the best interest of the town, and they may very well have a recent capital needs assessment. I haven't asked them because I haven't had those conversations, but what I'd like to do is get a green light to have these conversations, come back to this board, say in a month, and update you with a packet of information that we could then go from there.
Do you know why they're choosing to divest now?
Well, I think they would have done it a long time ago if they could have. There was, as I said, an effort, at least one, maybe two, for CHFA to sell the property. This isn't their core business. They are funders. They essentially are the financing arm, and they only have this by virtue of foreclosure. And typically lenders don't wanna be in the business of owning properties. That's not their mission. I can say with great confidence from having talked to them a couple of times by phone that if this board doesn't wanna go down it is a bit of a rabbit hole, but if we don't wanna pursue it, they are gonna put it on the market. And we cannot unreasonably prevent that.
And then any kind of development could go in.
Not only
no,
that,
we
and
don't know that, though.
CHFA would argue with me on this point, but another developer with deep pockets and money could go down the same path that we started to go down, which is this idea that the deed doesn't any longer restrict and that is the risk that the property would then potentially, it's a bit of a twisty road, but potentially it would be redeveloped as a market rate and we would lose that affordability.
But couldn't we
We need to
encourage
know
them to
that.
add that as a
Yeah.
requirement in the
Yeah.
conveyance, that there's a covenant on the deed?
They
on
say they're
transfer?
gonna do that and that their letter makes that point that we would require any purchaser to do that. Again, lawyers are I'm not a lawyer, so
And
that's their intent.
I'm not a property guy either, the guy is here, so but it seems like to me that could be done. Just my initial reaction.
Yes.
I feel really uncomfortable becoming the owner. And especially not knowing all these other things. But I could see myself being convinced if you were able to help outlay some of the things that you talked about here with a little bit more detail and explain the risks and all the other things. I've had a family friend who lived, and farms, and so I know the area and I know the challenges that it's had there too, but I also know the opportunity that it's given for people as well. So the idea of being able to maintain that as housing here in Simsbury, knowing all the other things that we're talking about seems reasonable to me, but and the responsibility here on this board and knowing the budget environment and the high risk, of doing that, and if the housing authority doesn't want it anymore and they don't want it anymore, and we're gonna say like, okay, well, we'll take on this burden and the albatross, that makes me very nervous.
Yeah, I think,
So that's where I'm at.
I think we need to
If I could
parallel process.
if I could just say, there is a potential closing that where we don't actually hold title at all.
Sure.
It's that split second where instead of us taking it and then transferring it to the housing authority, that the lawyers, essentially it's an assignment of the ground lease, but there is a mechanism by which, and a long way to go, where it could be conveyed directly so that there isn't a risk to our taxpayers directly. And again, it assumes a willingness on the board, on the part of the housing authority to do that.
I think in addition to, if you're going to go down the road of the assessment and finding out the initial needs, but parallel processing on the town side, what our financial and management liabilities will be going forward if we were to take this on.
So
Very, very good point.
So going back to Kevin, would you be willing to have Mark gather and get more definitive information to come back to us like in
I'm
the
actually
next
slightly
meeting?
concerned with, and I don't criticize the manager for having done this. I think that him exploring these things is actually what we've asked him to do in a couple of areas, but I'm nervous about how much time we already have spent and how much little resolution there is, and it seems like this could be a very, long process that might, exceed, my term on this board, who knows?
Yeah.
So I just don't know those things, so that's why I was clear that I could be convinced, but right now I do feel more nervous about the opportunity for us to do this, and I think that we could potentially influence the transfer of this in a way that we see as benefits the town and the residents without us taking on the obligation of actually owning it. And if that's the path, I feel much more comfortable. And if that can't happen, that's when I wanna hear the other things. That's where I'm at.
Can we set up a meeting with housing authority before we take any further steps? Because I just know their appetite, and just to be sure that they're on board, they understand, they feel like they're being brought in up front. Cause a lot of times they said, because they don't have representation on this fact, they believe that a lot of things just get kind of pushed towards them, or decisions are made without their input. So if we could set up a meeting with them to be sure that they're on board, they understand fully what's going on here and what we're trying to do, and
Yeah, already done. So
Okay.
we have I have a meeting scheduled with Ms. Cook, at which we'll outline this, and my plan was to within days of your greenlighting my going down this path, at least in the short term, in the immediate term, my first step would be meeting with the housing authority, right? I don't think it's a surprise that we'd be looking at this, because obviously Cheryl was in the SHPAC meetings where this was discussed as a potential. One of the recommendations that SHPAC made was that we look at town-owned properties, and it specifically mentioned this property.
Are you able to provide all of us with a list of what the town owns? I know we have some other affordable housing units. Currently, we are landlords, is that correct?
Unfortunately, it is correct, and then we might be well advised to look at moving those to the housing authority as well. I've had a couple of conversations about that, because again, it's not our primary, I don't see it as our primary purpose. I don't think this board does either, that we should be a landlord on those 6 or 7 units up there by Simsbury Farms, but yeah, I think you're right.
Steve?
So I met with Mark, thank you for including me. It's a wealth of information, it does get very deep. You can easily fall into a sinkhole and get sidetracked. I do feel there are integral pieces we are missing to be able to make a true connection. But let's boil it all the way back down. First, the overarching thing is the state of Connecticut is demanding, rightfully so, well, I'll let everyone make their own opinion up about that, but they are demanding we deal with affordable housing. We have not reached our 10%, it's 10%, right?
Yes, sir.
Threshold. And we need to deal with it, or the state of Connecticut is gonna keep telling us, we don't care what you want for your town, we're gonna tell you what you're gonna do until you take this seriously. So we have that big brother, not to use that term, breathing over our neck on this thing. So we gotta deal with affordable housing, whether we like it or not. This is one of the things that is affordable housing. For some reason, they won't acknowledge it. So whatever we do, we gotta fix it so that whether it's us or someone else, this is affordable housing. So we've gotta sort of right that wrong, although it's not really a wrong, but we need the clarification to come on down. To boil it down to a simple level, we have a letter in front of us. And what the letter says was, would you consider buying this? It doesn't say, will you buy this? It says, would you consider buying this? And with all our dialogue tonight, I think we would consider it. Will we buy it? Would we buy it? I don't think we're at that level to make that decision at this time. However, we have to consider, should we buy this? So to me, the response to the letter is, yeah, we might be interested. Not, oh yeah, let's work out the details, but yeah, we might be interested. Step one is we need a capital assessment. And as Mark alluded to, imply maybe they should give us a capital assessment so we know what there is for assets and liabilities, which if anyone's gonna buy anything in life, you're gonna wanna know what you're getting for assets and also the liabilities you're gonna incur.
And to Heather's point, the maintenance costs.
That's a liability, but yes. We also have a two-pronged thing, and I'm almost done, just so no one thinks I'm going on forever. The Simsbury Housing Authority is a great thing, but I too have heard the things where they're like, yeah, we're full, you know what I mean? And if you pull them out, I can't speak for Tom Roy, but I bet if we ask Tom Roy if he wants 50 more rental units, he's not gonna be like, oh yeah, I had Saturdays free. So we need to figure out who would run it as a component of if we can do this. So it's not if we should do this, that's still way out there. We're still at the could part. So I think, in my opinion only, we should respond to the letter that we are interested and request a capital assessment and not imply we might be willing to split it until we get a response. And in tandem, parallel fashion, meet with the Simsbury Housing Authority if it's possible as a board and get some like dialogue going on. What do you guys do? Where you at? What's your pipeline like? And do you have an appetite for this? Because if we can't get them to take this on, I don't see in my vision peripheral anyone else we can place this with other than the Simsbury Housing Authority. So that would sort of push me to the point that we wanna escort it into someone with the capability to manage it properly, if that's just not even an option for us. So to conclude what I just said, I think we should respond to the letter and say, yeah, we're interested, but not imply, let's negotiate. But to say, to assess our interest, not to double use the word, we need a capital needs assessment. And also at the same time, set up some sort of dialogue with the housing authority, because self-admittedly, I don't know too much except for some casual conversations I've had with different members over the years.
So to that point, I think we should also get clarification about the housing authority and our boards and this town's purview within that, because it seems a bit squishy and it is, you know, town property they're managing, but you know, where is our involvement? Where is our ownership? What is the town's liability even on the properties that they are managing up at the housing authority? And how does this fit into that? So I think there also needs to be some more information to this board about the housing authority and the delineation of liabilities and responsibilities and do we have any authority over housing authority whatsoever? I mean, we outside of, we appoint board members, we have a liaison, but outside of that, I mean, I understand there's things that come down from the state and there's state legislation around it and state requirements. But it's still the Simsbury Housing Authority. And where does the town fit into that equation? With that in mind, I know it's been referenced before that there used to be an Eno Farms subcommittee. And if we're going to take this, something like this on and it goes a little further, then I would suggest recommend that we revisit having an Eno Farms subcommittee specifically around this this procedure and this process.
The one thing I'd add just for the housing authority, I'm not saying that they wouldn't take this on, I'm saying they would need additional funding to, they're not saying that we wouldn't want anything additional. I think they operate under a tight budget currently, and they would need additional funding to be able to take on additional
They need a
responsibilities. So that
property
would be,
manager. They would
yeah,
have
so it would
another
be an
position.
additional cost from, probably for the town, because we're asking them to do this.
If I could,
Cover the state.
and I don't wanna get out in front of our skis on this, but to Curtis's point, which is I think very, very important. This is an opportunity for the housing authority, and it's also an opportunity for this board to get the answers to Diana's questions. I know, your view and you're closest to it, Curtis, is separate entity under state law, very little board control, if any, right? I think there's another argument that is not based on Connecticut general statutes, but it's more of a philosophical one, it's more of a public relations one. If anything goes wrong at it doesn't have to be Simsbury, it could be Poughkeepsie, it could be Hartford, it could be, but your housing authority, even though it's a quasi-governmental entity and it may have its own board of directors and its own governance, it is still the municipal, it's got our name on it, right? So people, the public, something goes wrong over there, there's mold or whatever else. I'll tell you, in Hartford, it landed on the mayor's desk, whether it was an independent organization or not. When the media came knocking on the door because certain repairs weren't made at some of the big affordable Clay Arsenal, Clay Hill, other places in Hartford, those became city of Hartford problems darn quick. Is what I would say. So
That's the situation there now.
it is.
Just to put a finer point on that, we can wait for the assessment to come, but just so you know.
Yeah, it's.
There's problems.
There's problems, and I've heard from people saying, who can I speak to on the board about the problems of
And so
These
my
properties.
point is, and again, just my opinion and my history here is that somehow these issues land or could land on this board and our elected leader's desk and on my desk as your town manager, whether they're independent or not. So it's they operate independently, might end up being a distinction without a difference if you've got 60 Minutes walking in here. So I just put that out there. The other thing is that academically, I could make a strong case. This board appoints their board. Presumably, there's a mechanism to remove their board, probably for cause, I haven't read it. But where there is a direct authority to appoint and remove, this board would never be expected to remove without having any opportunity to correct, to mitigate, so there is an imputed or implied authority that goes beyond their silo view of the world. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm just cautioning this board that if we have any sense that we wanna know more, I think this is a good opportunity to do it. And CHFA, if they wanna I think they wanna divest, they're going to have to tell the potential purchaser and open their books, like Steven said. We need to know what the assets are, what the risks are, what the capital needs are, and so forth. So I see this, I'll just close with this. This may be, as strange as it seems now, it may be the window to this board and this town taking a look at that and working in partnership with them, to help resolve. And their funding stream, I will tell you that I believe that the housing authority pays us a pilot. And I will check on this and get back to you, but I think it's about 90,000. I mean, it's a pretty significant pilot, which is a little unusual where a municipal housing authority is paying a pilot to its host municipality, right? So I think, I'm happy to get under the hood a little bit. I don't think it's gonna take a lot of time. I did wait until we were done with some other key things that were on my desk. We completed the soccer club memorandum and thank you all for your support on that. Before you tonight is our last collective bargaining agreement, and with your presumed adoption tonight, I'd just like to point out for you and the public that we will be up to date and have active 3-year deals with all of our unions and really draw a line under collective bargaining. So in terms of the work that has been going on, we will have checked the box there, and we've checked the box with some of the other things that you know about as well. So we have the scope to get into this, George and I, with help. And Diana, lastly, I think the subcommittee idea, the committee is a really good idea, staff, couple board members and somebody from the housing authority, and so happy to do it.
I know that the pilot there would like to not have to pay that. I know we cut the rate down, but they're also looking to see.
We'll see you at budget time, Curtis.
For the same reason.
Right, exactly.
But here's the thing,
They're paying that fee.
the only way you can do that is to backfill that revenue
Yeah.
in a different way, and we can talk about that.
So are we saying, Mark, we would ask you to respond to the letter that you wanna pursue further and get some information to bring back to us as a board? I think what I'm hearing is I think we all agree that, and we wanna ensure that the affordability continues at Eno, however that happens. I think I'm also hearing we don't wanna take it on, the town to take it on and the costs associated with that, and the management with it until we figure out the other properties that we have and how they're being managed and if we should be managing them. I'm also a little concerned the amount of time and resources that will go into this. I think Kevin alluded to that. We're entering the budget right now. If this is not gonna be like a full-time job, if we're gonna say to them, yeah, we're interested, do all this work for us and bring it back, is that kind of how you see that happening?
Well, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's a fair amount of work. I would just say if not now, then when? And if not yes, then we get out of the way and they do their thing, and we'll certainly do our best to ensure the affordability continues, but yeah, we have the scope. Now is probably the best time to do it for a number of reasons.
So can we ask you to pursue some of these questions that came up today and come back on the 15th with some next steps?
Not on the 15th, Jim. I'm gonna need at least 6 weeks here or more on this, but we'll get back to you with their answer with respect to it may take some time unless they wanna, I'm not sure I see the value in them giving us a 3 or 5 year old capital needs assessment. So if they have one and it's recent, fine. If not, it may take some time to get one.
Okay, the other thing I just wanna point out is then the next meeting is our last meeting before the election. Then we will have another one after that, but after that, this board may be replaced. I would recommend that at the organizational meeting for the next board, they could create a temporary committee for the Eno Farms and put people on that if that's something we're gonna pursue. So just as a note, that would be the right place to do it.
I think we should make a motion, or I would make a motion to allow the town manager to proceed in the affirmative to the letter we've received, and also to set up meetings with the Simsbury Housing Authority at the same time to ensure the viability of having a branch to take on this load.
Do we need a motion with it?
Yeah,
Do we
well,
need
I
discussion?
think if we
I
have-
personally don't think
Yeah,
we do,
I'd rather-
Stephen. If you feel more comfortable that
No,
we
I
have
don't
to
care.
I'd like to
codify
say
it.
consensus.
Well, let's do
Do we have
consensus.
consensus to?
My spot on this, and I don't wanna try to dominate it all, and I value what Stephen has said and what Mark's professionalism will bring to this. But I'm gonna withhold opposition to this because I want more information so that I can make a better judgment. So I feel uncomfortable with it, all the things that I had mentioned and everything else, if it's us taking ownership, which is what I'm talking about. If we're talking about making sure that Eno Farm stays affordable and all the rest and gets added into the calculation, 1,000%, I'm behind you. What resources do you need to make that happen? But help convince me is where I'm at, but so that's why I was nervous.
I'm with you.
I'm
I'm nervous about the
That was
motion.
better articulation
So
than I.
whatever Kevin said.
But in order to
That's
do
why it's not a
that,
motion. Yeah.
So let's say
in order to do
consensus
that,
on-
he needs to get the information.
I think you heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, Wendy, one thing, it's like, instead of having a separate meeting, we have a housing authority meeting every month.
yeah.
And board members are welcome to join me in one of the housing authority
Can we
meetings.
do that though? Isn't there
We can be
a
a guest
limited
to the meeting.
number?
It's 8:00 on a Friday.
Friday morning, 8 AM.
PM?
It's usually the second Friday of the
Oh.
month.
But yeah, as long as, I still think
Okay, let's take what Kevin said. We're giving that as a consensus for now. Whenever there is updates, please bring them back. But we would hopefully get an update maybe in our November meeting. That should give you time to get some information back.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Alright, so the next item is the surprise item from Kevin. Kevin, what are you bringing?
So we really talked about some of these things just now, but there's a couple of issues. So the DEI Council had a meeting, their last meeting, which was, and I had the minutes here on the 8th. And a couple of things that they had talked about, I had mentioned on the proclamations, but specifically the 9 areas, the 9 strategies that were proposed to us. And we had a discussion at our June meeting. And then there was a vote on that at the June meeting. But we haven't taken any action on the other 9. And so one of the things that I would hope would be an outcome from this discussion today is that filtering out what some of those other 9 strategies we might want to start pursuing, or at least adding this on a properly warned meeting for the future so that we can start addressing this. Especially even if there is a changeover in the other term, I think Wendy, that's appropriate to consider that, but we also have still, some work to do here, and then we can set the tone for what might happen in the next biennium. So that's the reason for that. And then also in furtherance to what we had just discussed, we might be talking about purchasing the property. That vote in June specifically excluded buying new properties. The vote in June specifically talked about Meadowood, and I know that there's already been discussion on this, but we're not gonna build housing on Meadowood. We've sort of come to that. So I would actually think it would be appropriate for us to both schedule a discussion on all the 9 points that came up in the SHPAC report, and then I would make a motion to reconsider or rescind the action that we took at the June meeting because it's no longer appropriate. So that's the reason why I wanted to ask for the discussion tonight.
Well, that's fine, and I will point out to the board that I've asked Mark, I thought a project for this board or the next board would be to look at our policies, whether we need new policies, need changes to existing policies, to even find where all these policies are, so we know which ones are older and which ones need adjustment. And one of the suggestions is to look at the policy, the abatement policy, which is in the SHPAC, to bring that one forward as an item as part of that project, because that is something that Mark has brought forward to EDC a couple times and pushed, and it did come to our board a couple times, maybe the last board, to look at that. And there is a committee in there that is really kind of defunct. So that's kind of what I was thinking, that would be something as one of the items we would bring forward. So I would say that that's where I would go. I don't know if I would start that now or until we have a new body in place. Is kind of what I was waiting to see, to start working on the SHPAC items, given the amount of time that's left between now and then. So that's kind of what I was thinking. If you want a motion to renege the vote that we did, which was a 4-2 vote.
Right.
Oh, that's fine, if you wanna make that motion. I don't think it's necessary because we've already shared that, I've shared that we pulled out of the CROG
That's correct.
statement, and I've seen people politicize this a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've also backed out of it because of what the referendum said, and I made that statement publicly. But if you feel that vote needs to happen, I don't personally feel like that. If the people who voted for it feel like that, then that's fine, because you didn't vote for that. But if you want us to vote on that, that's fine.
Well, if the position of this board has changed, which I'm hearing in this
It has
conversation,
changed,
and they have,
and
so-
I've made that public that it changed, but
Yeah, that's correct, and I just, so you know me, I'm a stickler for the formality of this, stuff. I think it would be appropriate that it's no longer, what the board's recommendations are, and so that, but then we also need to take up the other 8.
Okay, and we can.
So that's one reason why I wanted to bring it up for discussion. And I didn't wanna just throw it out there without the opportunity for discussion. So I wanna hear from everybody else, but if you're ready for me to, I'll make a motion, but if there's others out.
Sure. Go ahead.
So I'll make a motion to reconsider or rescind the vote made at the June meeting regarding adoption of the second recommendation of the SHPAC report.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. And any discussion, I do wanna add the discussion that it was put forward also by the members of the SHPAC, and also needed to also do the due diligence that ended up happening after the fact.
No, the reason for it is Meadowood we're not gonna work on, that was in the motion, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Yeah.
So
Aye.
hold on, I need clarification.
He's basically just asking us, because we voted in June to bring that back up,
Right.
that we're not doing that because of the information that we found out on the referendum that I publicly shared.
That's right.
Kevin would like to make an official vote on the
Okay.
board to say we're not doing it.
That's all.
Okay,
Got it.
so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's the vote there, so
Thank you very
thank you, and we will be taking up items in the SHPAC, specifically policy items. And that's kind of where I am, but I also, as I said, I think the diligence should be at the next elected board.
Great. I appreciate the opportunity to do that in the unanimity.
And I just wanna say, anybody that has items for the agenda, you can bring them to me before doing it on the dais, so that we could get the background information to the board too.
Sure, I'd appreciate a preview of the agenda before it's published.
Okay, well, sure, give me a call.
Sure.
Okay, resignations, Kevin?
So in the packet, there was a mention of reason why, which doesn't happen a lot, and so I just wanted to give that opportunity. I happen to make a motion to accept both resignations with regret, but it specifically addressed something about the ability for new ideas, on the board. And so the reason why I'm bringing this is not to target that, individual or whatever, or the board itself, but there may be an opportunity for us in working with the chairs of the boards that we appoint on how to work best with the volunteers on there. Volunteer management is something I do at work, and it's a pretty challenging thing, and I think the town manager would agree that managing volunteers is a challenge. But also being a volunteer can also be, a challenge as well, and I don't know what resources we can give to reinforce that. It's disappointing for me that there would be a chair that would see that somebody resigned because they, didn't like, the service on there, or to get a volunteer who decides to raise their hand and serve would feel like that their contributions weren't valued. That seems like too bad on many sides. So I just wanted the board to at least I wanted to have the opportunity to at least say that, and I'll make a motion to accept both resignations with regret.
I'll second that. Do you want is there a discussion? A discussion.
I just want to point out that the individual that made that comment, after the date of this resignation, had reached out and met with this person
Thank you, I did.
as Board of Selectmen liaison and former chair, and to get a better idea of some of the concerns. And I do plan, and I have a meeting with the chair coming up.
Great.
To discuss some of the concerns that were broached, and I feel good that the individual still feels good about the work that we do as a town. And we are working on some things, so I just wanna just acknowledge that heard and will address.
Great, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of September 8th, 2025.
The minutes are quite long, the
Oh,
20 pages of minutes.
It
was a long meeting.
That was the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of,
Or they can read
I wanna
it.
ask. I've asked for a motion, is there a
So moved.
second? A second?
Yeah, I'll second it, and I have
And is there
comment.
any discussion items?
Yes, and item D in the under the dogs at recreation facilities, in the third paragraph, the third to last sentence, the sentence says, he, meaning me, said encouraging our residents to follow the law. My intent was to say that laws should be written so people will be able to easily follow them, is my intent, so I'd like to make that one change. There's also a comment in section E under the proposed upgrade to the Children's Services job. The last paragraph, the motions, it says all were in favor and the motion passed. I'd like to add that the motion to table passed, because it might be unclear to someone reading it thinking that we adopted it. That's all my comments.
Anybody else have any comments?
There's just one typographical error.
I missed it.
And actually under Joan Co's comments, it's under co-compliance officer, there's for some reason an equal sign in the middle of co-compliance.
Okay, that's a good catch there. Okay, so with those changes, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes are done. Now we're gonna move into executive session with town manager, deputy town manager, the board of selectmen, is that it?
Yep.
Okay, can I get a motion to move into
So
executive
moved.
session?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're in executive session. Oh, I didn't say what it was.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education, and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions, and it's no secret people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government come together.